In a modern age where technology really matters, price point, all the hidden variables I like to call that affect the ultimate outcome of any console success. And this intricate formula has been tweaked many times, and we've seen several different models that have been successful. However, the one thing that one can safely say is that the model is not always guaranteed to be successful each generation. For whatever reason, the individual who brings, well, let me rewind a little bit. Ultimately, the company that continues to bring innovation on a consistent basis overall seems to be the company that does the best. It's amazing to me how Blue Ocean strategy versus Red Ocean strategy, I've seen it take effect several times over the years with different cycles. And in the end, once Red Ocean strategy becomes stale, it's ultimately Blue Ocean strategy that seems to reinvent the industry as a whole. Case in point, if you look at that era past the N64, the GameCube era, we ran into what I like to call Red Ocean strategy at its peak. It was all about hardware specs. It was all about overall who can make the prettiest looking game. And then that model continued for quite some time, nearly into the present, until the Nintendo Wii came out on the market. The Wii challenged that overall model of Red Ocean strategy with, of course, the innovative Blue Ocean strategy, create a market within itself for you to succeed in. And they brought an experience to where initially only the Wii could, how do I say this nicely, could achieve. The hardware was basically the hardware from the GameCube, and if it were not for the innovation of the remote control itself, the system would have been destined to fail. However, innovation as it is something that brings excitement to the gamer, the consumer. For whatever reason, whoever you may be in your private walk in life, innovation seems to just spark that curiosity within us. It just happens for some reason. Well, the game culture industry as a whole embraces it at times, and at times they flat out rebel against it. But kind of getting back on subject, what model seems to work effectively each generation? And I find that the Nintendo Wii U is about the, well, typical Blue Ocean strategy, create a market within itself again with the latest product. Now, it's yet to be determined whether or not the other companies will follow suit and eliminate that advantage that they have. However, since they will be first out of the gate, the advantage will be theirs for them to actually solidify a solid foundation. Nintendo has that advantage in that area. Well, it was interesting. I was talking with a friend, and if you're a Sony fan, if you're not a Sony fan, I'll say this much. The cell processor, as far as game development goes, I realize at this point initially it was very difficult to make games for it. However, that process has been streamlined to an extent to where developers actually know how to create games for the cell processor. But this is my thing. If I'm Sony, and I'm one of those individuals, if you ever watched Armageddon, you hear that Bruce Willis make the line, you guys are fucking NASA. I'm sure you got little guys just sitting around an office just thinking up shit, and this is the best you could come up with. Essentially, I feel that way about Sony at this moment. I look at the PS3 and I can't help but think to myself, what a waste, to be honest with you. And hear me out before you start bashing me. I think it was initially a brilliant piece of hardware, probably too far ahead of its time. However, it was released. But check this out. For you tech geeks out there, and all of you guys will probably, some may agree, some may not agree. It just depends on what side of the fence you're on. The bottleneck of the PS3, without a doubt, is the GPU and the amount of RAM it has. As far as the cell's performance, it's not even close to really being maxed out at this point. The simple fact that half the GPU decoding was done on the cell processor itself says a lot. The CPU as it stands, the cell processor, is an awesome piece of machinery that frankly could be used in their next console. Now you can overclock it and you can tweak it, but essentially they've gotten it production costs down with the cell to where it would be, to me it only makes logical sense. You eliminate the bottleneck, you add the additional RAM, you add a really good GPU for a change. And the thing about it is, even if you don't add the top of the line GPU that exists on the market because of the power of the cell, you can still add a better GPU than what's currently in a PS3, and the new system would sparkle like sunshine. If price point matters, recycling old components is how do I say this? Anyone who's ever built a PC knows there is value in recycling old components. I mean, it's just a fact. Whether you like it or not, there is a need sometimes to utilize your older components. Sure, it's nice to come up with brand new components every single time you do a build, but sometimes price point and all these other variables, it's more important to simply recycle some things that are recyclable. Case point, the CPU, the cell processor, is not maxed out. The GPU and the RAM is. Change the form factor. Add at least a gig of RAM, if not more, and put a bloody decent GPU in there. And the Sony PS4 would be a beast. And a beast at a decent price point. To be honest, it may have the potential to undercut everyone else at this point. They've gotten manufacturing costs down. The die has shrunk several times now. Energy efficient, heat is no longer an issue. Developers know how to program at this point for the cell. It still may not be the easiest process out there, but they are still able to program for it. Whereas, as we've all witnessed every cycle, there is a learning curve when learning how to do game development for each console. Well, if they utilize the cell processor in the next gen console again, which would only make sense, that problem would essentially be eliminated. And not only would it be eliminated, with the added RAM and a better GPU, it's reasonably safe to say you would probably have a game that was pretty near PC quality. And I know you PC nuts are going, oh my God, what the heck are you saying? No. The cell processor as a gaming machine is capable of a lot. It may not be good at PC world tasks, but crunching numbers, data, it'll shine. Doing decoding, it will do an excellent job with that. And I know we can argue, and like I said, on both sides of the fence all day long about whether or not you think the cell is a relevant piece of hardware or not. But as far as a gaming potential, if you're in Sony's position where you cannot afford to bring out a brand new piece of hardware with massive losses initially and hope to recoup it the way they did this cycle, it only makes sense to recycle the components. You want to know why I like the PS3? And I know you're a Sony drone, you're this, you're that. What I actually like that they did right is they made it region free. That's one of those little things that goes a long way for me, because it gave me the ability to bring in any game that I may have wanted on this system. And for me, that wasn't important. I know they did some shady things with, the Linux support and taking away USB ports and PlayStation 2, removing the hardware. All of that was terrible, yes. But in the grand scheme of things, they really tried to do too much. Too soon, when production costs for this system initially were just flat out too high. So if you're looking for a PS4, and if you're even somewhat logical, you have to think that they'll reuse the cell processor and fix the bottleneck that currently exists within the PS3. I know you can't call it PS2, PS3.5. I know that's not possible, add more RAM. If they would have done that at some point, to me, when they redid it and changed it to the Slimline, addressed the RAM issue, then that would have been an excellent move. But of course, at that point, production cost was not still quite where they needed to, and the last thing they could have done was increase the GPU and added more RAM at that point. However, that being said, now they're to the point where they could do that and get away with it pretty easily, to be honest with you. So, just a few thoughts on the subject. What will Sony do? Who the hell knows? I've come to the conclusion that they may not know what the hell they're doing anymore. It might have been a quick money that brought them into the industry. The thought of making the money when they can, and when the market dies up, move out. That may have been what their initial thoughts were. PlayStation 1 success, PlayStation 2 success. The well is starting to run a little dry. Will Sony bail? I don't know. It'd be pretty sad if they did, considering the success that they've had. However, it's about time you get someone in the front office who knows what the hell that they're doing. Get a true gamer in the studio. And I know you've got all the suits in there, but they're not involved in the gaming process. You need someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who can look at the numbers and say, all right, I understand what you're trying to do over here, Mr. Suit, but at the same time, this is our goal here, and this is what needs to happen for there to be success for the platform. They need that. If you're not going to be a company that competes with innovation, you at least need to be a company that uses common sense. That's all I got to say.